Alright, let's get started with building a junction. So what we're going to do is first of all extend this a few blocks out so we've got enough space, and then we're going to build a square at the center of the junction, and this is our offshoot, and then we continue on this way. Right? Oh, whoops. So just and now what we want to do is add in two little elbows here, like that, and now we can just fill in the rails. And now what we want to do is make sure that all the junctions or all the individual switches in this bigger junction follow a certain pattern. And we can look at one of my example junctions here to see what we're talking about. We want to follow an L shape like that, another L shape like that, and then L shape from the other side, and then same thing. So you can think of it as like right, right, left, right as we're going through. So we'll focus on this specific line first. Um, so that's this one here. We want to go, we see that, oh, we don't have this L shape. So what we want to do is add redstone torches wherever necessary. So now we have that. So we want the same thing over here. Now, because this switch is in the middle with 4, we can't just easily use a torch. So instead what we do is we just do a little trick where we set it up and then add the other rails. And as long as you don't apply a redstone signal to this, it'll stay exactly in this configuration. And then remember in this one, we were going right, right, left, right. So we want this one. It doesn't end up like that by default, so we just do this. And there we go. And then this one is not ending up like that, so we will just add some redstone there. And now that's all set up. Now on this side, you always want to have this switch pointing towards the exit from the junction, and on this one, you want this switch to always be forming an L shape here, so that it forms sort of a hook with this exit. So in order to get that, we gotta add a redstone signal, right? And now all that's left is this line. So we add this one here, and this is good. You want to make sure that if a minecart is coming through here, they can continue straight past this one, and then turn left, right? And luckily for us, the other one lines up perfectly too, meaning that if we're coming along straight here, we just want to pass this switch, pass this one, and keep going, and not turn into it. But then we want to configure the inputs for each of these switches. And what we want to find out is which switches we actually need to control in order to turn a minecart. And there are 3 of them. There's one here, and this one controls any switching coming from this line. So we come along this line and then we decide whether or not we want to go straight or turn right, and we do that via this switch. And so if this switch is in its current configuration, we just continue straight through the whole junction. Whereas if it's turned and it's the other way, which I can demonstrate here if I add a lever, now we'll turn right onto that line, right? Then if we're coming from this line, we want to be able to control this switch. So we already have some redstone under it. We've got some redstone under this one, and coming from this line, we want to be able to turn onto this one. And for that, we need to switch this switch, because by default we'll just go straight through, so if we switch that, we'll get sucked into that line. So what I'm going to do is add redstone there, but now it's away from its default configuration, so I'll add another torch below, and it's back to its default, or it's back to yeah. So what we end up with is 1, 2, 3 input blocks where we need to take the input from our switching circuit and put it into the junction, right? So let's go ahead and build one of those switching circuits. Let me go ahead and get the supplies we'll need. It's actually quite simple. So it's just these things, and I'll show it over here as well. Alright, so this is what we need. 2 comparators, 5 dust, a torch, a smoker, 5 hoppers, a rail, chests, some blocks, and a dropper filled with some sort of cookable item. In this case, I've got kelp because it works well in the smoker, but you can use whatever. So we're gonna start by going to the edge of the junction. So essentially, if we consider everything within this little square or rectangle, the junction. So as soon as we leave this block, we're outside. And so what you want to do is count at least 7 blocks between the junction and whenever you place your switch. Otherwise, you won't have enough time for the switch to react to processing the sword or shears that you put in your data cart. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we'll place our switch here. And so what we actually need to do is place 1 hopper below, and then break that temporary block, place the hopper above, and let's get our rail back over there. And now what we're going to do is come down below, place a temporary block, place our smoker to the left, and then another temporary block, and place our double chest, and this is where all our output gets funneled to. And then we just got to hook up a sideways hopper there, another sideways, and then a sideways one pointing into the smoker. Alright, now what we're going to do is on the side that's facing the junction, you're going to place 2 blocks here and put a comparator on top of both of those. And then put 2 blocks, and then on the side with the smoker, place a block above the comparator and just a simple dust here. And then right above the smoker, you're going to place your dropper and fill it with whatever cookable items you want. So what I'm going to do is take the other side, carry its output into a dust, which points into a block, which points into a repeater with 4 ticks delay. It's important this must be 4 ticks delay. And that goes into a dust and then a torch. And that's it. Now all we got to do is hook up the output from our smoker to the switch that we need to control. So we'll just use a repeater there, and remember, if we're coming from this line, we want to be able to turn left. So we got to control this switch. So let's take the line here and run it directly into this block, and that's it. So now it's all hooked up. So what I can do is actually show you that it works. So first of all, I'm going to take, let's take first of all the shears and throw that in. Nothing happened, right? And you can see the shears appear in the output chest. However, if we throw in a wooden sword, there we go, it's switched, meaning that any cart coming from here will get switched onto this line. And it switched back. I use a smoker because of the delay, because it's a bit shorter, so it allows you to have multiple people traveling through the network in close succession. But if you have, for example, a whole big line of chest carts going behind you, it might be useful to have the longer delay of a normal furnace. So that's up to you. And then, in order to complete this junction, all you got to do is copy that design to each side. So like I have here, you have the hopper chain, then to the left of that is the smoker, and then the chest, and you just copy that pattern. It does not matter, the directionality does not matter with this system, so you can just freely copy it, and then just hook it up to the control points that we established earlier, right? So we said that we need to control this switch and this switch still, so you'd hook up your other switching circuit to this one, and then on this branch you'd hook it up to this one. Yeah, and it's just that simple. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to build a station. And we're going to start with the, station first of all is made up of 3 separate components, which is the cart launching system, the button selection, and finally the player detection and like cart dispatch. So we're gonna start by first building the basic cart systems. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the sand, the cactus, the chest, and that should be good. And wherever you want to start your station, go in 5 blocks. And then what we want to do first of all is make an L shape with this rail here. So we want to go here, and then we'll put our chest down here, hopper, and rail. So we got a little L shape. And then just fill in the blocks. And what we want down here is some sort of opaque block, then sand, and then a cactus. And this will harvest our carts as they come back in. You can use a different setup. There's by no means restriction on using just this, but it's just what I choose for simplicity. And then on the other side, we're gonna have go 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, and then well, we put a block there, a temporary block, and then over here, what we want to do is put a dispenser facing upwards here, and a dispenser facing upwards here. Right, and then we can just go ahead and fill in the rest of our station to make it safe. And actually we do want to keep that block there. And so let's go ahead and put our rails on. And we want to end with 2 powered rails on each side. And we can place a block behind each one. And that's it. What we can do also, and you're probably going to want to do this, although technically it's optional, is adding some extra storage for each for the chest carts that go in this dispenser, and also for the normal mine carts. Just be aware that you should place at least 3 hoppers to give space for the actual other components, and then we can place our chest here, and we can fill them with mine carts like so, and then we can fill it with chest mine carts over here like so. Perfect. Alright. What's next? Next, we want to build the button panel thing that allows us to select certain destinations. So what we need for that is just the note blocks. Well, actually the note blocks are completely optional. Same with the gold blocks. I just choose it because it makes a nice user experience to get some feedback when you press a button. And then all we got to do is put 1 temporary block there, and then 2 blocks here. And here we can put the label for our 1, and here for 0. And then here we can put our buttons on top, and then the note blocks. And then what we want is we want the buttons to activate droppers. So we just put 1 behind each button block. And then we got to have a hopper feed into whatever cart is sitting at the station. So we just do that, and that'll suck items down into it. In the right order, mind you. And additionally, what we probably want to do is add some hoppers pointing into the droppers to add storage for our wooden swords and shears that we're going to use to fill this. So let's take wooden swords and put those in here. And let's get some shears and put them in the other one. Perfect. So now, if we, for example, press, I don't know, 1, 0, we get 1, 0 essentially in here. So that's all good and working. And you notice the note block sounded exactly the same. So what I like to do is just change the pitch a little bit so you know what's going on. Alright, so that's out of the way. Now let's go ahead and add the last bit, which is the redstone. So we need our tripwire hook and 1 string, and that should be it. So what we want to do here is add a tripwire hook around this rail. Like so. So that when a player is in a minecart here, it'll be detected. And then what we want to do is first of all wire this detection to the powered rail here, so that when a player gets into a cart here, it dispatches the waiting chest cart here first. And the way we do that is actually quite simple, just 2 blocks here, and then redstone wire. And that'll take input from the tripwire hook into that rail line. And then next we need to deploy our own minecart with the player in it, although much later. And so we're going to do that by taking an output from the tripwire hook there, and then torch, go down and across, redstone dust, torch, and then down further, and then we have a repeater on 4 ticks. Now make sure that this is at least 4 ticks, because we need some space between the chest cart and our cart. Otherwise, there's a chance that at a junction you'll bump into the chest cart, which might mess up your own cart's velocity. But yeah, this actually is almost done, so we just need to add the final button to deploy the minecarts, and that's going under there. And then underneath, you put a redstone dust, pointing into a block with a torch, and then redstone dust here, and we put a block here, and you notice that activated our cart dispenser. That's perfectly fine. And then run a wire along here with a repeater to pull out the signal. Right. So what's going to happen now is all you got to do is press a button, and then when this reactivates, you've got your cart and your chest cart. And let's say we want to go to yellow station. That means going straight at the first one, then turn right. So straight, so shears, sword, then shears. So let's see, that is 0, 1, 1, 0. Perfect. And by giving yourself some space, it means that like on these turns, you won't ever hit the cart, and saves you a lot of headache. Oops. And yeah, that's it. That's how you build a station. Now, in addition to just the the basic button panel input from the station I showed you earlier, um, it is actually quite handy to be able to have sort of a dedicated configured routes that you've set up beforehand for like really popular routes or something that's used frequently. So in this case, I'm at the orange station, and let's pretend that the route to the lime station is used quite often, so often that we want to have a dedicated button so we don't have to enter in a code each time. And we can just do that with the press of a button. You see it entered 0, 1, 1, right? And it's actually super simple. All you have is an ordered set of droppers in the same order that you want the code to be, and then just point in here, and then you got to activate them with redstone. And I put the redstone over the hoppers just to make sure that they're locked, so that essentially each dropper inputs an item into the hopper at the exact same time. Because I was having some weird quirks with like chunk boundaries and the order in which the items get put in, but that locking the hoppers fixes it, and now we are actually all set to go. And as you probably saw at that station, I also had a map, and that's actually one thing that I highly recommend doing is if you build this in some sort of survival world with lots of players who aren't familiar with the system, make a map of some sort and place named banners at the other stations with the name of the code that's required to get to them, because then all you got to do is look on the map, look at where you want to go, and enter the code. And it's that simple. Right? So I think with that, you take the basics station and turn it into something that's actually really user friendly. All you got to do now is dress it up and make it actually look nice, hide all the wiring, and you're good to go. So yeah, that is my tutorial. I hope you found it helpful, and if it did, if it was helpful for you, make sure to leave a like. It does actually help out my meager attempts at appeasing to the YouTube algorithm. And there will be a download link for this world in the description, so check for that. And thanks for watching.